So, yesterday, Nigel Farage spent an entire interview defending a billionaire who lives in Monaco, doesn't pay UK taxes, and cut hundreds of British jobs, while simultaneously claiming that immigration is destroying Britain. Okay, let's take a trip back to 2018. Richard Tice was a man on a mission, warning us about the dangers of foreign billionaires trying to overthrow our democracy just to suit their own ends.
Yeah, but we all live in this country, we pay taxes here, so we've every right to be involved in democracy here. This is a foreign billionaire who is trying to destabilise and overthrow one of the greatest democratic democracies and governments in the world just to suit his own ends, as he has done elsewhere in the world. He has no right to interfere.
Now, that seems like a pretty straightforward argument about democracy and accountability. If you don't live here and you don't pay taxes here, you shouldn't be trying to influence British politics. Simple stuff, really, the kind of position that sounds reasonable enough when you're having a go at George Soros or whoever the designated foreign boogeyman was that week. And I'm sure at the time Tice thought he was delivering an absolute zinger about protecting British democracy from outside interference. Fast forward to 2026 and Nigel Farage is on Sky News defending Jim Ratcliffe, the Ineos billionaire who famously moved to Monaco to avoid UK taxes. And when I say defending him, I mean really defending him, like going for bat for someone who's made it pretty clear that his actual life choice is that he'd rather pay taxes to a principality famous for casinos and Formula One rather than the country that he's apparently so concerned about. And the interviewer, in their absolute credit, isn't going to let this slide.
So Jim Ratcliffe himself is an economic migrant, isn't he? He lives in Monaco. Should he speak French or Monegasque living there?
He would probably argue that he's a refugee from the British tax system, but that's a separate debate.
He's an economic migrant, isn't he?
Monaco is a...
Is he an economic migrant, yes or no?
He's a tax migrant.
He's an economic migrant then, isn't he?
Yes, he is, but you know what? He's not claiming social security.
But he's
not claiming social security.
He's not paying taxes that could go on people's benefits.
Nobody's spending lots of money in Monaco employing people and spending money in the high street.
Well, he's actually, Nigel Farage, he's cut hundreds of jobs here in the UK.
Now, that was pretty clear that Farage didn't want to admit it, but Ratcliffe is an economic migrant, the exact type of person his entire political career has been built on demonising, except apparently it's different when you're a billionaire who's mates with Nigel. And the excuses that follow are genuinely incredible, because Farage tries to argue that it's absolutely fine because Ratcliffe isn't claiming benefits, which is such a spectacular of moving of the goalposts that it deserves its own Sky Sports analysis segment. It's then pointed out that Ratcliffe cuts hundreds of jobs at Grangemouth, wanted to build his Grenadier cars in Wales but ended up building them in France instead, and may end up with no UK manufacturing presence at all, which doesn't exactly scream patriotic British investor, so much as it screams businessmen making business decisions that happen to involve extracting value from Britain while contributing as little as possible. But Farage has got an answer for this too.
I suspect that Grangemouth will close. The last major manufacturing plant in Scotland will close. It may well be that Ineos have no UK presence at all in a few years' time. And do you know why?
That's not a good thing.
Do you know why? Moronic energy policy put in place by both Conservative and Labour governments. And we need to be real about this. If we want people like Jim Ratcliffe investing in Britain, employing thousands of people, we have to create the right conditions for them.
Do you want...
No special favours, but the right conditions.
Do you want people like Jim Ratcliffe as reform supporters, as reform donors? Is he going to be a donor?
I don't know, but what I have asked him, I'll be honest with you, what I have asked him is to advise me on how we put together an industrial strategy for this country so that we can re-industrialise. We have witnessed the loss.
Wouldn't it be better if someone living here was helping you out with that?
Well, do you know what? He has been living here for most of his life. He's recently gone to Monaco.
Right, so it's energy policy rather than, the billionaire's own choices about where to invest and employ people. Then we go to Manchester United because, of course we do. The interviewer makes this brilliant point about Ratcliffe being the co-owner and is also making cuts while simultaneously paying millions to what Farage would normally call economic migrant Premier League footballers. And watch how quickly Farage abandons his entire argument about immigration.
However, the point remains the same. He's employing economic migrants who play for Manchester United.
Yeah. And are they on benefits?
Are they paying taxes? I would assume.
Of course they are. Of course they are.
But the man who owns them isn't.
I'm sorry. This is ridiculous. To compare high-skilled migration or work permits...
So that's fine.
Limited...
I'm trying to understand...
It's always been fine.
Okay.
It's always been fine. What is not fine is an increase of the population of 12 million people. What is not fine is the impact that's had on the lives of ordinary folk and communities. That is what is not fine. What is not fine are areas of our cities being to local residents unrecognisable from what they are.
This is ridiculous to compare high-skilled migration. There's the line, right there. The exact moment where Farage reveals his entire position on immigration isn't actually about immigration at all. It's about class and wealth. Because apparently, if you're skilled enough or rich enough, then crossing borders for economic opportunity is absolutely fine and always has been. But if you're coming to Britain to work in the NHS or pick vegetables or drive lorries, then suddenly you're a part of this existential threat to British culture and identity. And these 4 words, "it's always been fine," expose Reform's actual ideology more than any amount of policy analysis ever could. Because what Farage is saying, whether he realises it or not, is that immigration is only a problem when poor people are doing it. And rich people moving around the world chasing tax advantages or business opportunities are just participating in the global economy that we should all apparently welcome. But here's where it gets even better, because the interviewer clearly knows about Reform's donor base and decides to twist the knife a little bit.
One of your biggest donors is Christopher Harborne, isn't he?
Yes.
He lives in Thailand.
So?
Well, people who aren't living here and paying taxes here, how much of a say should they have over what goes on here?
We are living, and actually what the Remainer mainstream media needs to get a handle on, we're living in a global economy. And a lot of our entrepreneurs travel around the world and work around the world, and we welcome that, as we welcome foreign business.
This is coming from a party that's built its entire brand on opposition to globalism, to protecting British workers from international competition, on the idea that Britain should put itself first and close itself off from the outside influence. Except apparently the global economy is absolutely brilliant and something we should welcome when it means Reform UK Limited can accept donations from billionaires who don't actually live in the country whose politics they're funding. Remember Richard Tice in 2018?
Yeah, but we all live in this country, we pay taxes here, so we've every right to be involved in democracy here. This is a foreign billionaire who is trying to destabilise and overthrow one of the greatest democratic democracies and governments in the world just to suit his own ends, as he has done elsewhere in the world. He has no right to interfere.
So here's what we've learned from this absolute car crash of an interview. Reform UK Limited's position on immigration and foreign influence in British politics depends entirely on how much money the person in question has. Their immigration concerns evaporate the moment you're talking about billionaires or highly paid footballers. The foreign interference that Richard Tice was so worried about in 2018 is apparently fine now that Reform have got foreign donors. And Nigel Farage will happily defend an economic migrant billionaire who doesn't pay UK taxes, cuts British jobs, while simultaneously claiming that immigration is destroying British communities. And the only way to make any of this coherent is to accept that Reform's actual ideology is absolutely nothing to do with protecting British workers or British culture, and everything to do with protecting the interests of wealthy people who want to move capital and themselves around the world without any of that tedious accountability or taxation that the rest of us have to deal with. But sure, tell me again how they're the party of the ordinary British worker?